Every Eurovision, we typically expect there to be a handful of earworms. This year, however, it seems like all we have are earworms.
Mama любила Мурона.
Don't get what you say, yeah.
Of these earworms, there's one that's caught a lot of people's attention, not only for the catchy qualities that it has, but also because of its quirky energy and the completely absurd concept behind it.
Who the hell is
Definitely not your typical idea for a song, but one that clearly works and has caused people to think of Austria as being one of the entries this year that could be getting a good score. Now you might wonder how someone arrives at this idea to write a song about being possessed by a ghost, and specifically, why Edgar Allan Poe? According to Taya and Selena, the idea originally came from wanting to write a song about being in the zone creatively, where whatever you're writing comes out of you so quickly that it's almost like it's not you who's coming up with it. It's as if you're being possessed by a ghost. As they continued to work on it, they started tying in other ideas, a number of them meant to critique the music industry. With this premise of being possessed by a ghost, there's also a double meaning that plays with the idea of a ghostwriter, and that describes a situation where someone receives credit for another person's work. Then there's also the lyric 0.003. That refers to 1/3 of a cent, which is an example of the very, very small values that streaming platforms will pay per stream of someone's music. Now, where does Edgar Allan Poe come into all of this? Supposedly, his name was used because it just fit the flow of the song and he's a notable writer. What's interesting is that they say that weeks after completing the song, they started learning more about him and how he was one of the first notable American authors to make a living exclusively off of writing, which at that time was not a money-making game. Makes you wonder, right? Maybe this is less of a premise than it's made out to be. Perhaps this is how Edgar Allan Poe keeps writing beyond the grave. And not only that, but he's managed to do something that's very 2023 and be incredibly meta. Either that or Taya, Selena, and their co-writers are actually just really creative. But that's a lot less fun. Aside from having a really unique idea, I think one of the things that works really well about this song is the way that it's constructed around the narrative. The beginning is perhaps a bit jarring with the detuned instrument and the over-exaggerated dialogue, but it certainly grabs your attention regardless of how pleasant it sounds. And after establishing the premise, you very quickly get the hook, which is so simple but effective. From there, it builds, adding more layers to the instrumentation, more change-ups in the chords, and playing up to the silliness more and more. But at the part where the lyrics 0.003 come in, we get this tone shift, and it's very effective because they've spent all the beginning of the song luring you in with this silly, absurd, and fun concept, but then they remind you that there's a point to be made here too. It reminds me a lot of last year with Incorpore Sano from Serbia, where Constracta goes from singing about the joys of taking care of her own health in simple ways to realizing that she doesn't have health insurance as an artist. Having something that, at a surface level, is just like a silly, fun pop song, but then is also being able to communicate something, I think is great. And it's no surprise to me then that the fans are really resonating with it, whether it's at a surface level or because they're digging into the meaning of it too. And so when it comes to Eurovision, there's already a lot here that we can say is working in Austria's favor. But the big missing piece is that we haven't yet seen a made-for-television performance of this song. So what can we say before we actually start to see rehearsals? Well, at the moment, it does seem like the second semi-final is a bit weaker because there aren't as many favorites. And there are also a lot more internally selected songs in the semi-final, so we don't know what most of them are going to look like on television. And when I think about which song is most likely to win this semi-final, I don't think there are that many choices, and this is certainly among them based on what we can see right now. There is one thing that I am curious about, which might be a bit difficult to execute, and it's the very beginning of the song with the lines of dialogue. When I think about Eurovision performances of the past that have these spoken word parts, I can't think of that many that were executed well. The one that comes to mind frequently for me is Armenia 2016, which was a powerful performance and scored well regardless, but there's something about it that just feels a little bit weird to me.
Hey, it's me. Look, I know it might sound strange, but suddenly I'm not the same I used to be.
And if I had to think about why, I guess it's just that when you have these pre-written lines of dialogue, it's hard to make it feel natural when everything around it is a very highly rehearsed and orchestrated performance. It's almost like switching from theater to live concert on a dime, and it's just maybe a bit abrupt. Or maybe it's just a me thing and the rest of you don't mind. As for what else to expect, Taya and Selena have already confirmed that the choreography from the music video will be used in the live performance, which I suppose is not a big surprise. Apart from that, I think we'll find out the rest when we see rehearsals. I'm certainly very curious about how they're going to handle this, and I do believe that if they play their cards right, they could certainly be a contender for the top 5. Could they do even better than that? Honestly, maybe. I think when considering the songs from the internally selected pool that have the best chances of winning, this would certainly be one of them, and I think that a lot of people would agree with that. But of course, we won't know until we see rehearsals. Let me know in the comments what you think of Who the Hell is Edgar? Do you think that this could be a good score for Austria? Has it caught on to you like a ghost entering your body? I want to know. And for more videos about this year's Eurovision Song Contest, I would love if you subscribe to the channel so that we can keep talking about the year ahead. We only have a month to go before the first semi-final, so things are clearly happening very quickly. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Take care.